Hello and welcome back to the Prime Sports Network podcast in this edition of Seahawks football. I'll be your host, Brayden Dowers, along with Santino Lauer, and I'm going to let him take it right away.
All right, so today in this podcast episode, we're going to be discussing three separate topics. We're going to go through coaching, we're going to go through secondary, and we're going to go through offensive offseason. I'm starting off with coaching. I would like to discuss how we feel about Shane Waldron. We saw and heard some good things about him, but we saw some bad things here and there. I feel like he's got potential, but he just needs a little bit longer just to figure out the groove. And there were some pieces to the puzzle that weren't quite there yet that maybe in this offseason we could fix. But I have not lost hope for Shane Waldron, and I just would like to say that I think we should give him one more prove it year. I know that we will so far under contract, but just as far as Seahawks fans' thoughts on him, I just think they should just give him one more year.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily impressed with Waldron. The Seahawks' time of possession was dead last in the league, and they led the league in three and outs on multiple occasions, I believe, in those 49er games and in the Washington football team game. We went three and out on like five straight possessions, and it was absolutely ridiculous. The offense could not get the ball moving, and that really affected the defense, which we'll get into more later. So if Waldron can clean that up, like in those in that Colts game early on in the year, he looked like the play calling looked really sharp, and even in the first half against the Titans, it looked really good. But at the same time, the offense just looked extremely one-dimensional. And then we just kind of lost it after that Titans game. Like the season just kind of fell in a downward slope after that. Adrian Peterson came in and basically became the honorary running backs coach and was a running back whisperer to Rashad Penny and made him an absolute god. I think Waldron's offense really got revitalized and it looked pretty solid. So I'm definitely on board with giving him one more year, but it is a thin leash, I'd say.
During the off season, I through all the articles I read and reports I heard, I saw lots of reports and word on that they were establishing more tempo. Brian Schottenheimer did not have tempo, and I just thought it was a very interesting thing that we could add in to our offensive scheming and style that I was looking forward to. And as Brayden said, we there were quite honestly every single game at the start I would consistently say, you know what, don't even give us the ball because we're just gonna waste the first drive and like just
Hmm.
off the bat. We were terrible with three and outs. We couldn't even do anything because we just couldn't get to the first down marker for the first play. We can't establish tempo like that. You have to go down the field. The only one of the many players that we saw, one of them specifically, Dwayne Eskridge, he barely played, and he's such a gadget guy that I feel like I'm not quite sure, but I feel like he could have been used much better in the time that he was played. An example of him, was it offensive weapons that we were lacking? Was that why we couldn't
Hmm.
get first downs? Or was it just the pure fact that we were running vanilla offense every single time? So I'm just not quite sure what's going on with Shane. I may be wrong on this, but I heard that in the first half of the season, Pete Carroll kind of gave Shane Waldron the wheel as far as like, he's gonna be the one calling the plays and calling the shots on offense. And then when he saw Shane kind of struggling, he kind of took the reins back and it slightly improved, but there really wasn't much to tell. So it is thin ice. I don't know. I just don't want to jump the gun on this guy yet.
I'd say about the same for the most part. What I would say during the second half of the season, during what I would call the run of Penny, offense looks significantly better. And I think that Pete Carroll philosophy of run first team, it really does help Russell Wilson open up that pass game, because in those final three games, in that snow game versus the Bears and the final two games versus the Lions and the Cardinals, when Rashad Penny was being an absolute monster, it was able to open up the pass game and Russell was able to thrive. So I'm really looking forward to what we possibly could be seeing on the offensive side of the ball next year, pending moves in the offseason, which, as you said, we will get into later. Now, moving on to defensive coordinator, I would like to start this off by saying Ken Norton is a bum, and I cannot stand him. Granted, like I also mentioned previously, the Seahawks offense ranked dead last in time of possession, meaning that their defense was on the field the most in the league. So all those yard numbers are absolutely skewed. I don't like looking at yards allowed when assessing how good or bad a defense is. Really, all that matters is points. Like, I don't care if you're letting the team get down to your 1 yard line. If you're getting an interception on the goal line and then you're taking it back up to midfield, who cares? And that's basically what Quandary Diggs did the entire season, it feels like. So we weren't allowing points, but the thing is, with those yards that we were allowing, it's absolutely ridiculous. And we have so much talent on the defense, it's insane. And Ken Norton cannot utilize it properly. He constantly dropped Benson Mayoa back into coverage, not just like 2 or 3 times a game. Like, this was a consistent thing. Benson Mayoa, who is a pass rusher, plain and simple, he is a pass rusher, and he's dropping back basically to a middle linebacker position where Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks were supposed to be playing. And then Jordan Brooks, he's a very good run stopper, but he was horrible in pass coverage, in my opinion. Multiple times you just see him, ball gets thrown over his head because he just plays it way too shallow. And Norton cannot adjust. It's just the same thing every single year that we've seen from him since he was the defensive coordinator. So, in my opinion, we've seen way too much of Ken Norton, and I would love to see him go.
I completely agree. I would say one of the many people on Seahawks Twitter that actively root for this guy to get fired. Back in what year was it? Was it 2019 that we all started the hate train for Ken Norton?
I'd say it really started like mid-season last year after we started that 5-0, and
Mm,
then like, but even during that 5-0 stretch, the defense was absolutely atrocious. And then once we started losing games, then it's just like, all right, this is ridiculous because we are historically bad.
absolutely. And of course, I would like to point out Ken Norton last season, I would say padded his stats. Okay. I'm going to be honest. He was terrible, terrible. And then, of course, all of a sudden, the defense starts getting better at the second half of the season. Ironically, in the easiest half of our season. So, yeah, we're going to look better than what we were, but that doesn't take away from the fact that we were terrible. And oh my gosh, even last season, we had, and which is the main point of this entire coaching topic, talent, but no results. We have talent on both sides of the ball. Defense specifically, by the way. We have people, Jamal Adams, Quandary Diggs, Bobby Wagner. We had KJ Wright last year. We have CJ Reed or CJ Reed, DJ Reed, and then Trey Brown, who's a development piece. We'll get to him later.
Tyrell Taylor.
Darrell Taylor. I love Darrell Taylor, by the way. Future of the Seahawks. We also have Carlos Dunlap. We have so many good, like, we have solid talent almost in every position. And we are playing like the Jets defense, who have no names and practice squad members trying out every week. It's disgusting and it's hard to watch. And, I gain hope sometimes. I'll watch games. I'm like, okay, this is we're doing this. Nope. At the end of the game, it all falls apart, and we start playing that beautiful Alton Robinson drop back into coverage, or Benson Mayo a drop back into coverage, and at that point, it's downhill from there. It's just terrible.
With those defensive players, I think that you have to let a lot of them go. We have a lot of impending free agents on the defensive side, specifically Rasheem Green, Benson Mayo, Quandary Diggs. Quandary Diggs we need to keep. Again, we'll get into that later. But there's just some guys. Kerry Hyder, extremely disappointing. Poona Ford was not as good as he was in 2020. Still a solid run defender. Al Woods was probably the biggest surprise of the year for me, or second biggest next to Rashad Penny. But Al Woods was also probably one of our best, if not the best player on the defensive line. Dunlap was not good up until he played the 49ers, and then he was just
Yeah.
an absolute monster.
Absolutely. Like, I don't know where he came from, but like, it kind of sucks though, because we needed him, earlier in the season when we, started losing momentum in games where we needed that spark, those extra sacks so that we can, win these close games that we lost earlier in the season. I truly think, like you said, that loss to the Titans killed us. We were just flatlined after that, and we
You're up
started just
24 to
losing.
9.
Yeah, we were just losing games poorly after that. I don't know what happened, but something died in us, and it was definitely our defense at that point.
At least we cut Trey Flowers.
Thank God he is gone. I recently, last night, I watched the Bengals game, and just watching him, it was getting PTSD over here. You
Yep.
can't put this dude on anybody. He doesn't.
Nope.
He can't play his position, and he still has a job. It doesn't make any sense, and it just makes me so mad that we bothered with this guy for what, 3 years, right?
Yep. 3 and a
3
half.
years, and
3
Pete
years and
Carroll
3
was.
games.
Oh my god, dude! Pete Carroll advocated for this guy so much, and I know Pete Carroll's a sunshine pumper. I know he is, but dude. You got to see garbage when you see it. He's not if you've had people like Richard Sherman, how can you look at this guy and be like, "Oh yeah, he's got hope coming up." No. Get him off my team. And luckily we did that.
And I just to end the Trey Flowers hate train. Last thing I'll say about him is I find it extremely ironic because you brought up Sherman. Like after that Vikings game, when he specifically said, "What do you guys expect me to be, Richard Sherman?"
Yeah.
It just shows like you have absolutely
Yes.
no confidence, and you're admitting that you are not a good football player, and it's sad because he
Mhm.
knows that he is nowhere near the level of what Seattle had been expecting. So seeing him not be able to cover Darren Waller against in that playoff game was not surprising. It reminded me significantly of Devontae Adams absolutely torching him in the NFC divisional round in 2019. But with that being said about the defensive coordinator position, who is somebody that you would possibly like to see take up the role if we were to pray to God fire Ken Norton?
The dream scenario. The scenario that won't happen because I know it's just no. Absolutely not. Of course, I would love Dan Quinn to come back to the Seahawks, be our DC again.
That's not happening.
Please. I have hope. No. Realistically, though, to be frank, literally anybody. I'm going to be honest. Literally anybody except for. Mm, yeah, literally everybody. I do not care. Anybody besides Ken Norton.
I think two guys that I kind of have circled. The most likely scenario for them is either they're retiring or they're just going to take a year off of football. But I really would like to see Mike Zimmer or Vic Fangio. Those would be my two dream scenario guys. But again, they also are football guys that seem to be towards the tail end of their career. And do they really want to take another defensive coordinator position? Maybe they could go out, maybe like a Chuck Pagano, like he did with the Bears after he got fired from the Colts. But Zimmer or Fangio, those are two really good defensive minded people that I think Pete would really like because they're all old guys. They know how to run defenses. So I think they would probably be the best fit for that. And speaking of Pete, I think it's kind of obvious this goes without being said. Reports have showed this. He's not getting fired. Nothing to worry about there. I'm completely fine with him not getting fired. If for some reason he does get fired, um, I guess you can expect probably like an emergency podcast of this from us.
Absolutely. I love Pete. I love his enthusiasm with the game. He's the oldest coach in the NFL, and he acts like a 30-year-old, just hopping around, jumping around, doing cartwheels on the freaking field. Like you can't deny that this guy's got football passion, and I it is one of the main reasons why I refuse to jump on the hate train because of the enthusiasm he brings to the team, despite how much I can't stand him backing terrible players. But that's aside the fact. And as well as his old, defensive styles and offensive styles. He's got his bad things, but I just feel like that we're gonna have a rough time looking for a new head coach right now than if we just wait until he either retires or the end of his contract. I push for at least something in the coaching realm of the team being changed this offseason because it was pretty clear this season that we're not lacking talent, more so scheme, because some of these coaches are working with scraps and they're making 9 and what is it now? 9 and 8 now,
Yep.
technically. 9 and 8 teams. Like, why can't we do that with what we have? And it just doesn't make any sense. So that's honestly, I will be so happy if we just change DCs or defensive coordinators and just keep Pete. I'm totally fine with that.
Other things with coaching with Austin Davis, yeah, he's going to be the offensive coordinator at Auburn, I believe. So quarterback coach spot will be open. Dream scenario for that. Matt Hasselback comes back. That would be great. And then I don't think that we really need a running backs coach, but
Clearly,
just
we
keep
do.
keep Adrian Peterson,
For the love of God.
like to make sure that Rashad Penny just stays. Keep Adrian Peterson. I don't know what happened, but since he got here, Penny was the best running back in the league, and I don't think that that is debatable, really. Like, yeah, Jonathan Taylor's good, but over those final 6 weeks, Penny had 8 rushes over 25 yards and 119 carries, and Jonathan Taylor had over 325 carries and only had 8 rushes over 25 yards. So if you replicate Penny's final 6 games into an entire season, you're looking at possibly the greatest season in NFL history by a running back. But again, like Tino said, keep him wrapped up in bubble wrap because he is extremely injury prone. But if we could keep him healthy, that would be nice.
He's made of glass, and I need this guy protected. And I see this all the time when he's mentioned. We drafted him because of his durability.
Mm,
And then he has had probably
the least durable.
like the least durable time with the Seahawks, and it's just like, come on, dude. Jeez. And I was on a massive hate train with Penny, and I'll
So
admit
was
that.
I.
I hated Penny. I wanted him gone. He was a waste of space. Okay. I wanted at least a trade for picks because we were lacking picks.
Yes.
We had 3 and didn't get more than 3.
Nope.
I wanted more picks, or at least to get him gone. And I guess now I'm going to eat my words with that because he showed some light, and I will be willing to re-sign him as long as he continues the path that he's going. Because, oh my gosh, imagine the backfield with Chris Carson and Rashad Penny on just, oh my, you know how scary that would be?
If
I
both of
would.
them were healthy for an entire year, Rashad Penny and Chris Carson, we saw it in that Vikings game and in that Philly game, what those two could do together before Penny tore his ACL against the Rams. They started to look really scary, and it was ridiculous.
We were just
I
pounding it down their
I
throats.
legitimately think if Rashad Penny stays healthy in 29, if Rashad Penny and Chris Carson had stayed healthy in 2019 and Dwayne Brown didn't get injured either, and we went into that playoff run without the most players on the IR in the league, we probably at least make the Super Bowl that year. But that is besides the point. We need to re-sign Rashad Penny, which I think leads us into. You want to start talking
Miles
about the
Stretch.
offense? Off-season
Uh,
moves for the offense, or do we want to go to the secondary?
let me just dabble on a little bit. This draft, this what was it? 2020 draft. Terrible. Not terrible, but definitely not good. With all 3 picks, we missed on. I would say
Who?
2 out of the 3. Dwayne Eskridge, I don't want to say a miss because he's had little time to show himself, but we're talking about now and what has been done, and he hasn't done much, if not anything.
It's almost like we should have
Uh,
drafted Creed Humphreys, like I said.
huh? Isn't that crazy? Like, I look at the Chiefs' complete revamp of the offensive line. Patrick Mahomes had a terrible time in the Super Bowl, getting bombarded with guys. That offseason rolled around. They completely flipped their offensive line on their back. And even just with the draft, their interior offensive line is really good. Just with drafting Creed Humphrey and what's the other
Trey
guy's
Smith.
name? Trey Smith. That's it. That was literally it. And instantly their interior line is billions and billions better than what we have and what they even had.
Yeah.
And so clearly our offensive line is not doing well. Brandon Shell, I am pretty sure he's a free agent.
Yep.
And Dwayne Brown, also a free agent. So there's both our tackles. Luckily, we do have both our guards with Damian Lewis. Love him.
Yep.
Gabe Jackson, also
Yep.
love him. He was actually really good this year. I didn't know much about him because I just, I'm not too crazy on offensive lineman guys, but I just didn't know about him at the time. He was actually, the spotlight on the entire offensive line just through the season.
There's a reason we
And
traded
then
2 picks for him.
exactly. With the disaster at center that could have been fixed with not drafting Dwayne Eskridge, a gadget receiver who played, I would say, arguably the same as Freddie Swain did.
Freddie Swain's better. Don't disrespect Freddie Swain.
Freddie Swain is better, dude. I'm sorry. Like, we totally messed up on that. No, but Creed Humphrey, that could have fixed this whole shebang. Ethan Posick, I'm sick of him. Get off my team. He was injured most of the season. Not a fan of that. And then we just were in just a tango of centers and could
Kyle
never
Fuller.
find. Kyle Fuller is pretty good at times, but he just is. He's not the guy that you look at and go, yeah, that's our starting center. He'll get the job done. We need a trustworthy guy, and clearly we don't have any of that. So, long story short, that makes it that we have 2 guards, and that's about it. Not good. Not good at all.
I will. I'll take the reins from here for the offensive line. Going back to what you said about the Chiefs, it just makes me really wish that we had a GM like Brett Veach that was just able to draft like that, just so good. If he was like, if we just had a GM that went out and made the trade for Orlando Brown, like I just think that we would have been significantly better off if, like, say Brett Veach was our GM because he is one of, if not the best GM in football right now. But just knowing what the market is going to be looking like in this off season, I think it's smart to keep Dwayne Brown. Brandon Shell, you have to let go. Brown did regress a bit, but like I said, I think you need to keep him back. Guard, completely fine. Center spot, I believe Ben Jones, the Titan center, is an impeding free agent. He was somebody that I thought if the Titans were not going to be good this year, which they ended up getting the 1 seed, but if they weren't going to be good this year, that would have been somebody that I really would have wanted the Seahawks to trade for, with how his contract is structured. So that would be somebody that we could look at for the center position. There's also obviously going to be tons of talent in the draft, and luckily we have picks this year. So we this has been, or at least it should have been, the focus basically since like 2015. Offensive line, that we have to do something. We have to get a tackle, and we have to get a tackle and a center in the draft. We have to sign a center. We should probably keep Dwayne Brown, and that's really about it. Like that should be all that we do on the offense in the off season because I like our tight end situation.
No.
Eh,
Gerald Everett cost us 3 games. He has talent, but oh my gosh, this dude has butterfingers when it matters most. He is Jared Cook on the Saints, the equivalent. He's solid, but not what I want. I'm good.
yeah.
I would rather pick up some like middle of the pack tight end on free
Have Jacob
agency.
Hollister come back.
Give me Jonnu Smith, who's sitting at tight end 2 on the Patriots with them having Hunter Henry. I'll gladly take Jonnu Smith. I called for
His
him last
contract's too
offseason.
big.
This is true. I didn't even think about that, but still, I don't care. Give me somebody that can just do their job when they need to do their job, but stay out of the way when, if you're not called to the stand.
We got 50 plus, I think it's like $53 million in cap space. First order of business, re-sign Quandary. Second order of business, re-sign Penny. And then straight to the O-line. Tight end, that's something I think we could address in the draft since Colby Parkinson is basically dead. I hated that pick
Yes.
since the beginning. He is, like, I don't ever remember seeing him make an actual impact on the field. Will Disley, don't know what happened to him.
Dude, he showed signs of greatness.
He's
He
always,
was so good before he tore his ACL.
yep. That feels like a lot
Solid.
of Seahawks players, but yeah. I think a big thing that is kind of going to sneak up on us is DK because he's going to want an
Dude,
extension going into next year. And I don't know if we should give it to him. I really
bro,
don't.
I have a conspiracy theory. I have a theory that I have a theory that Russ was told not to throw to DK as much this season just because it would totally make his contract call so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was times where DK, like, come on, you could have thrown it to DK, but he chose not to, and he chose to throw it to
Locket.
literally anybody else. Tyler Lockett, who is a god at football. I recently bought his jersey. He's so freaking good. Thank God we have him for multiple years. I was afraid of his contract. And ending and stuff and having to deal with that because I love him so much. He's so freaking cool. And one last little touch on the offensive line for me with Pete Carroll and his pumping of rays of sunshine upon the Seattle city and or whatever, just the organization. I know for a fact, I just know it. He is going to tell us that Stone Forsythe is the answer. And I'm calling it now. We're not re-signing Dwayne Brown. He's either signing with somebody else or he's retiring. His decline is starting to actually happen. And this season was kind of like that 50-50. Like, okay, like you're pretty good, but you're also like injured decent amount. The rust is now finally showing, and unfortunately, Stone Forsythe is Pete Carroll's answer, and I know it. And we're not gonna have anybody to replace him, and it's gonna suck because I'm gonna have to watch Stone Forsythe get absolutely clobbered on by the entire Rams defensive line twice a year.
Joey
It's gonna
Hunt, part 2.
suck. No, dude. No. I'm not watching that. No. Please.
Joey Hunt was just watching that one video of that kid who is supposedly born with a potato for a heart, and then the safety just comes in and lights him up. Like, that was just Joey
Yes.
Hunt every single play. Felt so bad for that guy.
And since we were just talking about contracts, let's just rebound back to DK. I'm jumping around a little bit, but I have just little random things to say. DK, his contract's going to suck, and I don't see a possibility that we don't re-sign him. I'm going to be honest. Like, he is our wide receiver 1, and for us to literally let him walk is stupid. Stupid and dumb. It's stum. And like what? Dwayne Eskridge? Really? Come on.
No.
Don't flatter yourself.
Don't keep
Nah.
dissing on Freddie Swain. You keep not mentioning him.
I'm not mentioning him because he is as good as a third string wide receiver gets. Like, he's what you want. Aside from Cowboys and their overabundance of wide receivers, Michael Gallup. Speaking of, I would not mind. But he's coming off an ACL tear, but, whatever. I've always wanted him. He's such a good receiver. Now, I'm going to transition over to Quandary Diggs. That man, give him his paper. He deserves it. Every dollar. Every dollar. He, unfortunately, in, what was it, the last game of the season or second to last? The last game of the season, broken femur and dislocated ankle. That is kind of really, really bad. I'm going to be honest, just with even his negotiation, because even if he is going to negotiate to return to the Seahawks, he's not going to be able to ask as much as he originally could have walked in there with.
Which is stupid.
It sucks for him, and it's kind of sucks for us, though, too, because I really hope that he stays the same and that this injury doesn't, like, kind of kill his career in a sense, because he is so good, and I just love seeing him fly around the field and get those occasional picks. Is he like the only dude that got picks this season? I swear.
Outside of the final 2 games, yeah.
Like, I know DJ got like
one in the final game.
One in the final game, but other than that, it was quite literally Quandary Diggs on the turnover game, and he's just solid. And you cannot doubt a secondary with Jamal Adams and Quandary Diggs at safety. Like, that is, you can look at that and go, we're good. Like, they're going to do their job.
Now you just need to get a number 1 corner to go along with it.
Speaking of, DJ Reed, I love the guy. He is a true come-up story. I love that we stole him from the 49ers, essentially. He was pretty good this season. He was solid But I still think we need to look and still actively look for a number one corner. We need a lockdown guy. We have to get a lockdown guy because we are still letting up too much. And DJ got picked on a couple times. That was just kind of tragic. And it's not quite his fault, but you got to do your job, bud. And I know we have some development in Trey Brown. That is for next season to evaluate. But we're going to act like he's an okay corner. I'm going to look at him as a really good like CB2 next season, but I still want a number 1. And if we need DJ at 2, we could, I don't know, maybe put Trey at slot. But by the way, what happened to Ugo?
He sucked this year.
I was gonna say, like, I heard his name very little, and when it was terrible.
Hmm I would say something to point out for cornerbacks is that J.C. Jackson is an impeding free agent. Patriots corner, even though he got absolutely destroyed tonight by the Bills, he is somebody who stepped up and would be somebody I think that the Seahawks could use very well.
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't even looked at the free agent list yet because I'm just gonna wait till the season ends.
Yeah.
And as when there are free agents and then there are drama fests, which is essentially free agency, but they just, they're trying to get their way out.
hmm
And then I'll actually look and see who's actually available. I haven't quite looked at it yet, but I have a feeling that this offseason there's some good names and we'll actually have money to play with for once, which should be fun. Hopefully. I hope we actually sign people besides just Gabe Jackson.
Hopefully, it's not like before the 2020 season where we had over $60 million and we did nothing but spend it on just depth guys. We gave out like 10 2-year, 7 mil contracts, and it was just annoying. We didn't sign any like number one guys. It was just a bunch of depth guys, and it was really annoying.
Boy, did that bite us in the butt because
hmm
I isn't Brandon Shell like the only one that still remains?
Basically.
It's sad. Like, come on, dude.
No, I mean,
Um,
just looking through the 2022 NFL free agency tracker, there are definitely some names that the Seahawks should be targeting. Another one's Casey Hayward or Darius Williams. I think somebody that they could possibly look to trade for is AJ Tyrell. He's on the Falcons. The Falcons suck. The Falcons are looking to rebuild. They're going to be trading Calvin Ridley. They could be trading AJ Terrell because I believe his contract, he's about to go into his 4th year. He's probably going to want an extension, and probably Falcons aren't looking to give it to him. So that could be somebody that we could be looking to trade for. Just an idea. Um, Like there's definitely not going to be a lack of players that the Seahawks are going to be able to have their mind open to sign or trade for.
I just hope we like if we trade for somebody, I hope it's gonna be somebody that's like that we know for sure is gonna help and not
hmm
just some random stupid crap. Uh Speaking of trades and random signings, you guys remember when Akilo Witherspoon played for us?
No,
He didn't. He went straight to the Steelers for a pick,
fourth
and then we
rounder.
spent it on a fourth round, and then we spent it on Sidney Jones.
No, we did. Well, no, we
Or
spent a
we got
sixth
Sidney
round. Yeah,
Jones from
we got
yeah,
Sidney Jones. We got him out of Jacksonville.
yeah. So didn't we essentially just turn our sixth round into a fourth round?
Yeah,
Kind of.
and we got Sidney Jones for Akilo Witherspoon. That's why I love John
Yeah,
Snyder. He just
he's
asset
pretty good at
managing.
that. Yeah, like that's one thing I
He
will give
turned
him.
Nick
He's pretty.
Vanette. He turned Nick Vanette in a 7th round pick into Quandary Diggs and Carlos Dunlap.
Now that is something Brett Veach will not and cannot do.
Nope.
We all remember Frank Clark.
Heh, that was
Look how
funny.
he ended up. Uh, Jesus. No, I don't know, dude. This secondary has so much potential. I just hope it works out.
I just hope that it stays
And
healthy.
yeah, no kidding. It's healthy and goes upward at least, because I swear we've gone downward ever. Actually, that's a fat lie because we've gone up ever since Trey Flowers got cut.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. Dude, literally the game after we cut him, we started doing better in the secondary.
Yep.
Coincidence? Mm-mm.
No, because that was the first time where DJ Reed and Sidney Jones got an entire week to prep out the 49ers, and they killed it.
Yes. They did
God love them.
pretty freaking well. Yeah.
Also, looking at
One.
the free agency tracker, just to throw it back on offense, Ryan Jensen, that's a name that I would also like to possibly see. He's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting center, and he's extremely good at run blocking and pass blocking. So,
I'm not gonna lie, like every time I watch a Bucks game and I see that dude, I just have a hate for the Buccaneers now because of Tom Brady, but every time I see that dude, I just like hate him internally. So I don't think that'd be good for my mental if he came to our team. He's good at center. Don't get me wrong, but that would kill me inside.
fair.
One name that I do want to bring up, and it's going to be another slap on the wrist for me, and I will wholeheartedly say it. I have I have good takes and I have bad takes, and this is a developing take. Um, developing bad take. Jordan Brooks, is he on the come up?
Mm, he's on. It depends. Everybody still loves how Jordan Brooks has been playing, and he even got an All-Pro vote. Personally, just from the eye test, I still am not the biggest fan of him. And this is like, I have swayed my opinion on Jordan Brooks so many times. Out of the draft, I didn't like it. I thought we should have drafted Patrick Queen. And then I watched him and I'm like, okay, I think he's better than what I originally thought. And then I started hating him. And now I'm kind of left in this area of like, what is Jordan Brooks? And I think it comes down to he's a solid to above average run defender, and he makes me want to kill myself in pass defense. I'm sorry. Like, I see him drop back into coverage and goal line red zone defense, and I just know what to expect. I'm sorry. I don't like watching him in pass coverage. It is infuriating. It's like seeing Justin Houston on Antonio Brown.
Ew. I Jordan Brooks is a name I hate so much, and I just ever since he, got drafted, I've always resented him. And he definitely had a better season this year. I will give him that. And I will say he has, you know, he is developing. He's developing and there is a bright future hopefully for him. Please. But he has and that goes along. He has a long way to go, and I kid you not, if he could end up like KJ, I will be happy and content.
Still should
But
have
he
re-signed
just,
KJ.
yeah, like there was no reason to just completely go balls deep on that. But Jordan Brooks, is he on the come up? I say he is. I take I take my personal view on him, and I'm just gonna like hold it for a little bit because I think he could do better and be better. And he had a pretty significant second season. His stats were not padded from facing weak opponents of last his rookie season. But I do say the Seahawks fans' hype over him is a little much. I think they should put the spotlight on Tyrell Taylor.
Mhm. He's still a pussy for getting carted off the field for fucking cramps.
This is facts. I remember that. That was like, come on.
It was
What are you doing?
yeah, cramps are bad. No. Like
Dude, I thought he broke his neck.
mhm.
I thought this dude was paralyzed.
Who, Tyrell?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about Jordan Brooks in the Vikings game.
Oh,
Yeah, Jordan
yeah.
Brooks got carted off the field because his leg was cramping.
Oh, yeah.
Tyrell Taylor, yeah, that was scary, and
Yeah,
rightfully
I thought he
so.
broke his neck. I tweeted about it and I had somebody reply. They're like, they got offended by it. I was like,
Mhm.
no, it's just an assumption. Chill out.
Like I thought that Tyrell's career might have been over, and he was having an insane game in that Steelers matchup.
Didn't he lead the team in sacks?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. I'm like 80% sure on that. He he is a hopefully developing game wrecker because I mean, shoot, he's a notable player out of all the rubbish we have on that freaking defense. Rubbish, like they don't know what they're doing. He just, he's definitely a factor, and I'm looking more
Yeah.
forward to him than Jordan.
Carlos Dunlap had 8.5. Tyrell had 6.5.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Never mind then.
Carlos, like we
Dunlap had
said,
that.
yeah, he just came out of nowhere at the end of the
Yeah,
year.
Dunlap had that like second half of the season, like, oh fuck, I need to get sacks, and so he,
Hmm.
hit the Jets.
Yeah, and Kerry Hyde, yeah, like Carlos had 8.5. Tyrell and Rasheem had 6.5. Puna Ford had 2. He's a run stopper, and then Kerry Hyder had 1.5. Like, guy, just bad.
Harry Hyder had a lot of pressures, didn't he?
Mm,
He did some in the early part of the season. I know I specifically saw him and it was like, okay, Kerry Hyder's pretty good. Like he's a helpful factor. He gets pressure,
yeah,
but I'm not sure about the second half of the season.
yeah. Hyder's not. I'm not the biggest fan of Hyder.
I remember talking to you before the beginning of the season. I said I would not be surprised if our defensive line is like overall better than the 49ers. I was definitely wrong. But no, but like if you saw and looked at it at that time, we had solid depth.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't a bad take per se. It was just, a little over evaluated. And some players didn't exactly spark off like they were supposed to. Rasheem Green, he did fine, but I feel like he should have been way better. Now, this could all be because of a certain someone doesn't know how to scheme and tell their defense how to play defense. Ken Norton, thanks a lot. Um, but yeah, we have talent. I don't know what happened. I don't know why, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah. I think bottom line, Seahawks should go out, spend some money in the offseason, make sure that they get their guys back, specifically Quandary and Penny. Sign a center, draft a center, whatever. Sign tackles, draft tackles, again, whatever. Just get people who are good. Find a new defensive coordinator. I pray to God that it's Mike Zimmer or Vic Fangio. Anybody else really wouldn't mind them either.
The
Person,
one move, the one thing I want to happen this offseason is at least DC. I
yeah.
called for it last offseason. I need Ken Norton out of Seattle. And I feel like that resolves at least half the issues.
Mhm.
And then at that point, like you said, just spend a little bit of money here and there, re-sign some certain players, and we'll hit the draft running.
For sure.
One last thing I would like to say before the end of this podcast episode. Russell Wilson offseason drama. I swear, if I hear anything, if I see anything, any articles, any reporters, don't talk about it. I don't want to see it. Don't mention it, talk about it, or speculate.
He's
It's not
staying.
happening.
He is
Russell
staying.
Wilson is staying in Seattle, okay? And he has literally said it so many times that he is staying. And I know sometimes it's a slow news day, guys. It's, you got to get something out. You got to make that money. Who's the number one name on the list? Russell Wilson. Okay, make an article about it. But I swear, if I see it and if it's pushed over, just my feed in general, no, stop. It's so like overdone. And what's gonna suck is if it actually does happen, I'm gonna look like a freaking idiot, but I'm gonna feel terrible. But it's not happening. I'm like 99% sure. I just think his agent is kind of a jackass because he totally like exposed him last
Yeah.
offseason with the whole like teams he wanted to go to.
It was
and
significantly more likely last year than it is this year.
yeah, and which is weird because we ended off on a good note good note, quote unquote, last season heading into the off season, and this season heading into this off season, not on such a great note, but I think it was kind of. I feel like this season was kind of like a emotional, like
Yeah.
This is like a sorry, in a way.
It was let's not have drama anymore.
Yeah, this is like that makeup hug in a way, kind of like after an argument. I don't know. We'll see. I will say though, all of you who send me pictures of Russell Wilson in Saints uniforms can just not exist, please.
Yep.
You're very annoying and obnoxious, and you just infuriate me. And honestly, that should be the end of this episode. Before we leave, I do want to say that we are going to try our best to get more episodes out. We kind of just coasted a little bit throughout the season. We just couldn't quite get anything specific that we wanted to talk about, as well as our personal lives and stuff like that. But there are episodes coming, and one for sure, we will make a draft episode.
Oh yeah.
Pre-draft episode or post-draft. We'll see. I might do. I'd say we should do two. One before and one after.
Yeah.
How's that sound? We could do that, yeah. We'll do that for sure. So there are more episodes coming. So yeah.
To leave it off, make sure to follow the Prime Sports Network Twitter account. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff on YouTube. Let us know what you thought. Follow me on Twitter at ShowMeBaseball or at Brayden Dowers, ShowMeBaseball. Whatever. Tino, your plug is Prime Bam Bam, right?
Yeah.
Good. Make sure to follow our own personal accounts. And yeah, thanks for watching.